Breaking news. Ukraine deploys Iris-T in Frontlines. It is Sunday, January 25, 2026, and right now, a massive shift is happening in the air defense landscape over Europe. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me with Aria in the latest from Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we are covering a massive development that just dropped.
And it's so much more than just another missile shipment. What we're really looking at here is the industrial mobilization of Europe, for real this time.
Exactly. We've got the huge new order for 18 Iris-T systems. That's just been confirmed by Deel Defense's CEO, Helmut Rauch. We've got a brand new high-security factory opening, and get this, the untold story of how French spy satellites are guiding these German missiles.
And we have some incredible frontline reports to get into. We're going to talk about the Lviv record. You will not believe this one brigade just shattered a decades-old record. 7 cruise missiles down in a single fight.
And wait until you hear about the French connection. It turns out 2/3 of Ukraine's intelligence is now coming from Paris, not Washington. And we're going to explain how a satellite can literally tell the difference between a T-72 and a T-90 tank from space.
Plus, the invisible shield. It sounds like marketing, but it's a real tactic. How German engineers built a system where the radar and the launcher are miles apart, making them basically invisible to Russian missiles.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the news from January 23rd, it really does signal a massive change. Ukraine has ordered 18 additional Iris-T systems. Now, we've seen aid packages before, but this feels different.
It is completely different. Just for context, before this, Ukraine was operating with about 9 firing units. 9. So this order, it literally triples the German air defense footprint in the country. We've moved past, emergency aid. This is long-term fleet building.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. 18 systems is a huge jump, I get it. But the front line is immense, over 1,000 kilometers long, not to mention the cities you have to protect. Is 18 really enough to build a proper shield? Or is it still just plugging holes?
That's a fair question. No, it's not enough to cover every single square inch of the country. Of course not. But what it does is it allows for a fundamental shift in strategy. Before, you had to make these awful choices, right? Do we protect Kyiv or do we protect the power grid?
A single point of failure.
Exactly. But with this kind of volume, plus the systems they already have, Ukraine can move from point defense, just guarding one thing, to genuine area denial. They can lock down entire operational sectors.
And the industry behind it is finally catching up. I mean, just yesterday, January 24th, Deel Defense launched a whole new facility in Nonweiler.
Right. And we need to be clear, this is not just some warehouse. This is a 3,400 square meter high security facility. It's purpose-built for handling high explosives and, all the sensitive guidance electronics. This is that industrial awakening we've been talking about for years.
And the production numbers are ramping up too.
They are. They're aiming for 10 full firing units in 2026 alone, then scaling up to 16 per year. I mean, compare that to pre-war rates. It's a whole new world.
It really brings up that crucial point about sovereign risk. We tend to think of these missiles as just protecting soldiers. But this feels like it's about protecting the economy itself.
Precisely. It's Europe finally realizing that a solid air defense is a prerequisite for any kind of economic activity in a war zone. These systems are, they're sovereign risk mitigators. If you can tell an investor that their new factory in Dnipro won't be a crater tomorrow, that's when the money flows in.
They're building a shield for the reconstruction just as much as for the current fight.
That's it exactly.
So the factories are humming. Let's talk about the hardware itself. Iris-T gets called a beast by the crews, but it's not just one thing, is it? It's a whole family of systems.
That's right. You have the SLM, which is the workhorse. That's the one you see most often. Medium range can hit targets out to 40 kilometers and up to 20 kilometers high. It's mounted on those big MAN 8x8 trucks, so it's perfect for defending cities.
And then there's the other one, the bodyguard. The SLS.
The SLS, yeah. Short range, about 12 kilometers, but the platform is the key here. They're mounting it on the BVS-10.
The Viking, a tracked amphibious vehicle.
Yes, and that is a massive tactical difference. The big trucks, they're bound to the roads. You hit mud season, they're stuck. The BVS-10 can swim, it can churn through deep mud, it can follow tanks through a forest.
So the SLM is the big umbrella over a city, and the SLS is right there with the troops, protecting them as they move.
You've got it.
And I saw in the specs that there's already something next in the pipeline, an SLX variant, slated for 2029.
That's the next big step. They're boosting the range out to 80 kilometers. Think of the SLX as a kind of Patriot light. It bridges that gap between the medium-range systems we have now and the big high-altitude ballistic defense.
Which means it could threaten Russian jets before they even get close enough to launch their glide bombs?
That's the idea. Push that engagement zone way, way out.
Speaking engagement, let's talk about how this thing flies. There was a line in the technical briefing that just blew my mind. It could do a 180-degree turn within the space of 2 football fields. How is that even possible for something moving at supersonic speed?
It's the thrust vectoring nozzle. So most missiles steer with fins, right? Aerodynamics. The IRIS-T actually points the rocket exhaust itself. It can create these insane G-forces that a fin-steered missile just can't match.
Okay, so what's the actual tactical use for that? Is it just for showing off?
Not at all. It's a kill assurance mechanism. Think about it. A drone flies right past the launcher, or a cruise missile does a hard brake turn at the last second. A normal missile might just overshoot. It can't turn that tight.
But the IRIS-T can.
The IRIS-T can basically flip around and chase it down. It completely eliminates the dead zone behind the launcher.
That is just wild. But honestly, the most impressive part of the whole system might not even be the missile. It's the architecture, this invisible shield tactic. It sounds like marketing, but there's a real electronic warfare trick here with the radar.
Oh, it's absolutely real. And the key is separation. In your older Soviet systems, the radar and the launcher were basically tied together, sometimes on the same vehicle. So if an anti-radiation missile hits your radar,
The whole system is dead. You take out the eyes, the fist is useless.
Exactly. But with IRIS-T, the Ukrainians are placing the launchers up to 20 kilometers away from the radar and the command post. They're connected by fiber optics or tight beam data links.
So the radar is sitting there, pinging away, acting as bait for any Russian missiles. But the launcher, the really expensive part, is 20 clicks down the road, totally dark.
Completely silent. Zero electronic signature. So if the Russians do manage to hit the radar, the crew and the launcher are perfectly safe. They just plug into a different radar in the network, and they're back in the fight in minutes. It turns a mission kill into, well, a minor inconvenience.
That explains the high survival rate. But let's talk about lethality. We've got combat reports that came out this week from the Lviv Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade. These guys have been in the fight a long time.
They have, and for years they were using the old Soviet S-300. It's a capable system, but it's aging tech. Their unit record for a single battle with the S-300 was 5 kills.
Which is pretty respectable, honestly, for that kind of system.
It is, but then they got the IRIS-T, and in their very first combat engagement, their baptism of fire, they faced a massive Russian cruise missile attack. They shot down seven cruise missiles.
The commander, Vitaly, I read his quote, he said, "We destroyed them one by one." It feels like it's not just about the missile, it's about the processing speed, right?
It's the difference between analog and digital warfare. With the S-300, you're fighting the clutter, you're managing channels. With IRIS-T, the fire control computer just prioritizes everything for you instantly. It's automated lethality.
And that automation got a serious workout with the 223rd Air Defense Regiment in early January. That wasn't just a simple wave of missiles, it was what they call a mixed complex attack.
That was a real stress test. The Russians threw a bit of everything at them. You had 5 Kh-101 cruise missiles, 2 Iskander-K missiles, and 2 Shahed drones, all at once.
So you have fast stuff, maneuvering stuff, and slow buzzing stuff all coming in together, the kind of thing designed to confuse a radar's logic.
That is the whole point of a mixed attack, to oversaturate the system. But the IRIS-T just sorted them out, downed all 9 targets. It proved the system can handle that speed mix without getting flustered.
That kind of success, though, it has to be about more than just the battery on the ground. It requires amazing situational awareness. And this leads us to, I think, the most surprising part of our research for this deep dive, the French connection.
This is huge.
On January 15th, French President Macron made a statement. He claimed that two-thirds of Ukraine's intelligence is now coming from France. That is a staggering figure. It really feels like a deliberate move, doesn't it? To make sure Ukraine isn't vulnerable to, political shifts in the U.S.
It is strategic autonomy in action. Europe, led by France here, has decided they cannot afford to let Ukraine go blind if American data flows start to fluctuate. But it's not just about the quantity of the data, it's the quality, the specific capabilities of their CSO satellite constellation.
All right, let's get into that. These aren't just any satellites. We're talking about 3 specific ones, CSO-1, 2, and 3. How do they actually help the guy in the IRIS-T launcher?
Okay, so CSO-1 is your wide-angle lens. It's way up at 800 kilometers, scanning huge areas for general movement. But CSO-2, that's the identifier, it orbits much lower, down at 480 kilometers.
And the resolution is something like 18 centimeters. For anyone listening, that is sharp enough to tell the difference between a T-72 and a T-90 tank just by the pattern of the reactive armor on the turret.
Exactly. And then you add CSO-3, which I call the timekeeper. Its job is to eliminate the blind spots. Before, there could be a gap of several hours between satellite passes. Plenty of time for the Russians to move. CSO-3 closes that window.
So bring it all back to the IRIS-T crew. How does this French data change their day-to-day?
It buys them time. Precious time. The French satellites can spot the Russian Tu-95 bombers taxiing on the runway deep inside Russia. They calculate the flight paths, the launch points, and the crew in Ukraine gets a warning. Incoming threat 30 minutes out.
Which means they don't have to sit there with their radar on 24/7, just waiting to get hit by an anti-radiation missile.
Precisely. They stay cold, they stay silent till the last possible minute, they power up, they already know exactly where to look, they fire and they move. That amazing 90+% interception rate, it isn't just about the German missile, it's about the French warning.
It's a truly unified European kill chain. But we have to stay realistic. The Russians are not a static enemy. They adapt, and they adapt quickly. What are we seeing now in terms of their counter tactics?
The most dangerous thing right now is this Molniya drone concept. We're seeing these fixed-wing mothership drones, and they're flying deep, deep into the Ukrainian rear.
So it's a drone that carries other drones.
Yes, it's a carrier. And it's using Starlink terminals, which they've gotten their hands on somehow, to maintain control over huge distances. Once that mothership gets near a high-value target, say a Patriot radar or a HIMARS launcher, it unleashes a swarm of smaller FPV attack drones.
They're hunching the hunters.
They are. We saw confirmed reports of a successful strike on a Patriot radar near Kyiv using this exact method. It just proves that even with a system as good as IRIS-T, nothing is invulnerable. If you can be found, you can be hit.
And there are still gaps in what it can do. The strike in Venezia on January 20th, that was a Zircon hypersonic missile, and IRIS-T couldn't touch it.
That's the Zircon gap. IRIS-T is a phenomenal cruise missile killer, but it's simply not designed to go after something moving at Mach 8. It doesn't have the kinematics. And this is why the conversation in Europe is now shifting and shifting urgently to HIDEF, the Hypersonic Defense Interceptor Program. That is the next critical layer that Ukraine is going to need.
But despite those gaps, the integration of what they do have is accelerating. I mean, we saw the German frigate Baden-Württemberg testing IRIS-T on its own deck.
Which just shows the versatility. If it works over Kyiv, it'll work over the Baltic Sea. It's just as good against sea-skimming missiles.
And the coalition is growing. Norway's contribution this January with all the NASAMS missiles in this Kyiv project, that adds another layer of complexity for the Russians.
Oh, it creates the ultimate dilemma for an enemy pilot. NASAMS is radar-guided, IRIS-T is infrared-guided. It hunts for heat.
So if a Russian jet turns on its jammer to blind the NASAMS radar,
he just lights himself up like a Christmas tree for the IRIS-T's heat seeker. And if he pops flares to confuse the IRIS-T, the radar-guided missile gets a clean lock. You can't effectively jam both at the same time. It's a checkmate scenario.
But it seems like everyone wants in on this. Even neutral countries like Switzerland and Slovenia, they're all buying into this European Sky Shield initiative.
It's a unifying moment. We're finally moving away from this patchwork of different mismatched systems toward a standardized, interoperable European air defense network. And Ukraine is the tip of that spear.
So to pull it all together, we've got a massive industrial ramp-up in Germany pushing out 18 new systems. We have record-breaking performance in Lviv that proves the tech is combat-ready. You have French satellites providing the eyes for the German fists, and a unified European strategy is turning the airspace into a layered death trap.
Ukraine is, without a doubt, becoming the most heavily defended airspace in Europe. It's a tragic testing ground, but it's also the forge where the future of Western air defense is being hammered out.
But I do want to leave our listeners with one final thought, and it's maybe an uncomfortable one. We've celebrated all this incredible tech today, but the cost curve is still the elephant in the room. We are shooting down $5,000 Shahed drones with $1 million IRIS-T missiles.
That is the unsolved equation. And that's where systems like JEDI, the Joint Engagement of Drone Interceptors, have to come in. We need cheap, autonomous kinetic interceptors to deal with the swarms so we can save the expensive missiles for the expensive threats.
The big question is, can the West make defense cheaper than the Russian offense? At the end of the day, that might be the question that decides this entire war.
It's the question that matters most.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria. where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.